Choip, choip, choip. Choip, choip, choip.
Yeah, piggies! I have perfectly spherical fruit. Life on the Mediterranean. Or maybe some dreamy fantasy of its crystal clear waters. Pristine beaches, white stone ruins, and exposed nipples. It is gorgeous and kind of cel-shaded. Throughout the game you will see a variety of beautiful strange places. Mostly low-tech with fantasy accents and the odd turn towards sci-fi. So this place seems to be the remnants of a destroyed civilization. And your young protagonist is on a journey through it, searching for something, making sense of the world. He doesn't speak, he mostly hums and yells. So don't expect help in figuring out what's going on. As you progress, you will be able to make more sense of it. You will find keyholes that reward you with pictures that shed light on the story. The world does give you clues, but not the ones you think. This game has an implied and symbolic layer that I completely missed. The story unfolds slowly, giving plenty of opportunity to conclusion jumpers such as myself to change our minds as to what this game is actually about. Indie games have shown that they excel in implied storytelling, so in all honesty I couldn't help but compare this game to a lot of others. Not so much games that employ symbolism, but those that drip feed the story to you. For instance, Fury, a game that does it in a more narrative way and builds up to a reveal. I even compared it to a game that I haven't played yet. This approach to storytelling, I'm assuming, is much closer to this game. Journey. So a cynical part of me was looking to discount this game, to not see the originality in it, to resist its attempts to affect me emotionally, to just write it off as a beautiful, mild 3D platformer, with mild puzzle elements, and a story that does stoke your curiosity, but with an underlying idea where you'll guess what the big picture was before it's fully formed. Boiling it down to that really does evaporate some of the emotional heft. In spite of that and my general resistance, the ending was quite a punch to the gut. And I suppose the groundwork that the game had lain caught up to me there. It didn't result in me crying, but rather a dull sadness in my stomach. And when I quit to the main menu and saw the level select screen, I saw their themes and realized how the different areas embodied them. Once again, during play, I did not recognize the significance at all. I knew the levels were distinctly different from each other, but originally I simply thought they adhered to 3D platforming tradition, giving appropriate visual variety to the different areas, but with the game's own stylistic spin on it. But the reality is far more substantial. I won't spoil it here for you, and I suggest that when you play this game, you don't go to the level select screen until the end. I don't know if the themes would already be visible if that only triggers after you complete the game, but it's best not to risk it. That would spoil a whole lot. The game doesn't have any dialogue if that's a requirement for you. It's just a symbolic, beautiful journey that you undertake with the help of a fox. Am I still being cynical here, or are foxes becoming a bit passé in video games? Epistory, Lost Ember, I suppose they're the perfect meeting point between cute and wild. Let's continue with the gameplay. It has fairly simple puzzling, if kind of inventive in terms of mechanics, and the platforming is mechanically simple. There's not much to it. There actually aren't that many opportunities to die, and that doesn't really have a penalty. No combat either. It has interesting mechanics that aren't used in a fast-paced or dynamic way. You just press on and relax, think about the plot a bit, marvel at the beautiful vistas, and listen to the tranquil, if sometimes sad, music. But it does have an exploration component. There are a fair amount of different collectibles, parts of a lullaby, pieces of emblem, toys, outfits, etc. Some of these can be quite tricky to find, especially since this game kind of encourages forward momentum. In some areas you can't backtrack to, unless you go to the level select screen and spawn at the start. And as mentioned, that has an issue. But if you don't try and find them, you'll be making a fairly short game even shorter, and you'll be missing out on some lovely wonders, finding the secrets in this dead civilization. And as I've said, the visuals are gorgeous. Arguably, they are the best aspect of the game. They showcase this lonely place. It looks beautifully sad. A remarkable place with no living souls to truly enjoy it. Except for the animals, so it would be a shame to not explore it. At least a little bit. The music I talked about, it is great, and adds to the somber tone. And maybe a bit of mystery as well. Very beautiful, but evokes the loneliness of this place. Even going so far as to make things that would be scary in other scenarios just another obstacle to overcome. As I mentioned, the game is quite short. It took me 8 hours to complete the game with quite a few of the collectibles. That's not a great length, especially when you consider that it's only kind of cheap on Steam. 319 Rand full price, 111 Rand 44 cents on sale. That's a gargantuan 13 Rand 93 per hour of gameplay. That's not just quite bad, that's absolutely decadent. But if you can afford it, I believe this game is very worthwhile. And it's kind of an ask to download as it takes up 7.26 gigabytes on the hard drive. And it doesn't really work on the Warhorse. I tried it there and it lagged ferociously on the menu. And lowering the settings doesn't help at all. It's just too pretty. At least stereotypically it's okay for kids. But it does have its grim and sad moments with pronounced visual darkness. But the sadness is beautiful. A lovely thing for some people to experience. And maybe in some ideal situations, it can help to process certain emotions. Worst case scenario, it makes you cry. And opens old wounds. So as you can see, this game has artistic merit, but is shaping up to be quite a decadent suggestion. The game has gorgeous Mediterranean themed visuals, with varied levels that feel different and have symbolic functions. It has tranquil, mysterious music that emphasizes the loneliness of this place. The game has novel, unique puzzle mechanics if the puzzles can be simple. The game has lovely, implied and symbolic storytelling, with an affecting end, if the lead-up can be a bit emotionally neutral. The game is really relaxing and beautiful, fun to explore. It's a mysterious land. On the maybe side, there's no overt narration, and no one overtly tells you what the objectives are. You just go forward, or at the very least where you haven't been yet. Also, it's not particularly action-packed. It has simplistic platforming and no traditional combat. Very deliberate movement. I'm assuming it's like Journey, but longer. From what I can tell, about 4 times longer. In all fairness, there are 1 or 2 more exciting exceptions, where the gameplay is combat adjacent, like for instance running away from a flying creature. The only con I could really see here, and I was kind of looking for one, is that arguably the most fun part of this game is the exploration. Yet the game kind of has a feeling that encourages forward movement. Sometimes you can't backtrack, and even then it would take quite a time, and will be a bit grating. The levels are quite linear, yet you are compelled forward, in spite of the reasons to stop and smell the roses. And maybe in this game those aspects work against each other. Yes, this game is rather decadent. It's more of an artsy option, but I truly believe it's a worthwhile one. Come on, play it. When you consider how serious this game is, it's kind of hard to think of something funny to end with. But I suppose the character you play as kind of has a Solid Snake semi-mullet, complete with headband. Din. Din din. Din. Din 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 din.
Choip, choip, choip. Choip, choip, choip.